Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Emily Ross and I'm with the United Nations Foundation. I'm here with Sandy Climan, the President of Entertainment Media Ventures, and we're here in SDG Live at the World Economic Forum annual meeting. And Sandy and I were just speaking before this interview, and you said you've been to Davos how many times?
I think this is year 21.
So you're kind of a Davos veteran.
Well, it's my son turned 21 on Tuesday, so it's sort of as if we share the birthday.
Happy birthday to your son. So I'd just love to first kick off, because you've been here for a while, what are the conversations that are happening, and kind of what's the state of the world now, and how has that differed maybe than in previous years?
Well, you're talking about a long span for the forum, and decades and decades. And obviously, I think there are many things this year that are remarkable. One is you had, for the first time, the Chinese president, Xi Jinping, addressing the World Economic Forum.
That was the first time.
This is the first time a leader of China has appeared here with what was a remarkable address, bringing along a large contingent of the most important companies in China, their CEOs, as well as political leaders from China, which in a way is inevitable that as we look at Asia as a substantial player in the world, which it always has been, and when you think of these countries, they have played a dramatic part of world culture and development and technology, and today I think what we're seeing is them taking a leadership role in climate change as well as in the business sector. And as we look at the SDGs and we look at the dialogue about the state of the world, I think not just China, but China and others are making their voice heard with a sense of appreciation, not just of globalization of business, but I think for me, what I've always found most inspiring about Davos, it is about the globalization of humanity. Right. Is that while we look at trade and how it impacts the quality of life, what we also have to look at is the sense of us all being part of a world community with respect for individual cultures, but with a sense that we all share this planet, we all share a future, and we want that future for our children to be a good future.
So that's something I could not agree with more. And you mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals, which were kind of adopted by leaders in 2015. You mentioned kind of our common humanity storytelling. With your media background, how do you think we can reach people with the message of what the Sustainable Development Goals are and really use the power of media and storytelling to kind of incentivize them to engage?
Well, the first thing I have to compliment with the Sustainable Development Goals is that there are many ways to reach people. One is symbolism, and I think the circle symbol, the colors, and the sense of visual engagement, knowing that there are Sustainable Development Goals, but then you have to actually tell the story of how we engage people in understanding them, in rallying behind them, in making sure the leaderships, whether they are local, national, or global, pay attention to the details of life on this planet rather than the amassing of just wealth on this planet. Right. And it is the details that are absolutely critical. And I think the fact that, it's been broken down, some people, 17, why 17? In a way, it allows us to think clearly about each goal, but also how many of them interlink. Right. And what worries me in the world today, and it's been much discussion here, is there's been a sense of lack of trust or diminishing trust or degradation of trust in the media and in news. And a sense of, you hear discussions of what is fake news. You hear discussions of, are people paying attention to the news? You hear an even more troubling discussion, which is, do people care if what they hear is true? We see social media driving people to the extreme left and the extreme right because we have algorithms that tell you more and more about what the algorithm thinks you want to hear to engage you. And that's not really what we need in terms of, a sense of an aware and engaged and informed population, no matter what country it is, for the future. And what gives me hope is wherever I turn, and being one of the few voices from Hollywood here, as well as having initiatives in health, but being one of the few voices from Hollywood here, I actually believe as people move away from their trust in news and traditional sources, the way we will bring people together, whether it is on a human-to-human level or on a human-to-issue level, is through storytelling. And whether that storytelling is movies, whether it is documentaries, whether it's this wonderful new form of vibrant, intelligent television, whether it's digital media, whether it is, user-generated engagement.
Now, I think that's such an important message, and I'm really glad that you came to SDG Live, because we've been hearing a lot from corporate leaders, nonprofit leaders, and the UN, but we haven't had kind of someone here from Hollywood in that perspective. One last question for you before we wrap is there anything you're personally working on now related to the goals? Or you mentioned you have something going on in health. Could you just speak to that a bit?
Well, we have a number of health initiatives with Pegasus Capital, a private equity group, and I'm on the board of a company called Lighting Science Group, which is a spin-out of NASA. And what this company focuses on is the biological impact, health impact of lighting. And while people look at lighting as, oh, there's light, we can now with LEDs basically strip out each part of the spectra. And what we know is that blue light will stop you from sleeping. We have lights that actually will, are being used by sports teams for higher athletic performance. There are street lights that actually make it safer to drive because it creates a sense of awareness for drivers. And the science of lighting is, I think, a gateway to the next generation of science of health. And this is not guessing. These are studies from Harvard, Stanford, with a clear understanding of the impact, not just of light, but in the Sustainable Development Goals. It touches on all of the many factors in the environment, some of which are partially understood, some of which are becoming completely understood. And what we need to do is to make sure this planet stays as healthy as possible, people are as informed as they can be, and that governments support families for the future.
Thank you so much, Sandy. It's been a pleasure.
Emily, it has been a great pleasure being with you.
Thank you.